Found out my dad was evil. I never went to the funeral and now I regret it. One night, when I was 3, I did not want to go to bed. I protested my oppressive bedtime in typical toddler fashion, by screaming, crying and raising a ruckus. My mother continued with the bedtime routine, largely ignoring my behavior and just trying to get through it. My father came into the room and announced it was time for me to go to bed. Now, apparently, my reaction to his proclamation was unsatisfactory. He picked me up and threw me on the bed. Hard. I bounced, hit the far wall, slid down and hit the floor. My screaming and crying escalated. My mother, who had dismissed his mental and physical abuse towards her, got between him and the bed. She told him he could go to therapy or a divorce lawyer. After he broke her arm, he chose divorce lawyer. He quickly figured out that the only way to get a reaction out of her was to hurt me, emotionally or physically. This became the sole purpose of exercising his visitation rights. By the time I was 7 or 8, I realized that if I didn't tell my mom and she didn't get upset and call to yell at him, he wouldn't ask for me to come over for at least a month. I stopped telling her. I have 2 positive memories of my father growing up. When I was about 12, he bought me a set of blue, sparkly multi-sided dice. They were to play D&D. He played with a group of middle-aged men on Sunday afternoons and my mom would pick me up towards the end of the game. The game was held at an old friend of his, whom my mother was also friends with. Instead of waiting in the car and honking, she felt obligated to go to the door and visit with this friend for a few minutes. My father always inserted himself into these conversations. My mother is an adult, and would be cordial to my father in front of his friends. Once, I was allowed to pick out 2 things from 7 to 11 instead of just getting a Slurpee. His second wife insisted we stop at 7 to 11 on our way back from sitting in the car while they shopped at several stores. He made a very big deal of showing everyone the things he bought for them when they came back to the car. Except me. I did not get anything at his house except food. That was what he paid child support for. No Christmas presents, Easter baskets, clothes, toys, etc. I would be there to watch my step/half siblings open their gifts and smile, or pay the consequences of ruining the holiday for everyone else. His second wife reminded him that it was my birthday when he was angry about having to stop. He felt bad enough, either about forgetting or making me watch everyone else get gifts on my birthday, that I got a candy bar. My younger sister cried when we got back in the car and she didn't have a candy bar. He made me share. My father was only about 5'10", but he weighed at least 450 pounds. He also desperately needed the therapy he refused to seek out. Moody, self-centered and incapable of accepting responsibility for his actions, he was a powder keg that could blow at any time. I didn't speak to my father, at all, from 2001 to 2007. Then, in 2007, my younger half-sister called me and asked me to come see him in the hospital. He's dying. His cancer is terminal and if you don't come now you might never have the chance again. I told her I would think about it and called my mom. She asked me what I wanted to do and I told her I didn't know. She offered to fly out to DC for 1 day with me. First flight out, last flight back, and we wouldn't tell anyone. If I got there and wanted to see him and or my sister I could. If I got there and wanted to go to a movie theater and watch movies all day or go sightseeing I could. She would drive and hang out nearby for moral support if I needed her. We flew out on a Tuesday. After sitting in the rental car, my mom patiently reading her ebook, for about half an hour, I decided to go to the hospital. I could always leave. It wasn't as if he could chase me anymore and drag me back. My mom, always prepared, walked me into the hospital, patted her backpack of electronics and told me she would be in the cafeteria, text if I needed something and gave me a hug and a kiss. Right before she walked away she offered, one more time, to come up to the room with me. I'm okay. You can come if you want but I'm okay. I'll wait down here. Text me if you need me. I took the elevator up to the 6th floor, read the signs on the wall, took a right, a left and then stopped outside 608. The door was open to a room designed for double occupancy. The bed closest to the door was empty though and the curtain was pulled, blocking the view of the other bed. I took a deep breath, walked into the room, peeked around the curtain and gasped in shock. My father, my huge, intimidating, terrifying, monster of a father looked deflated and defeated, like a helium balloon, trampled and discarded days after a party, stuck to confetti and streamers. He had too much skin and not enough meat, tubes and wires sticking out everywhere. Staring out the window, he looked like life had pushed him to the ground and, when he tried to get back up, put its foot on his throat and said I said stay down. Hey Dad, I whispered it, not sure how to reconcile the weak man, loosely covered by the faded blue and white gown, ties haphazardly fastened and the ogre from my memories. Lise? Tears flooded his eyes and he reached for me, immediately wincing in pain and falling back against his bed. Surprise, I spoke softly, walking towards the bed and standing by his feet. Bree called me, I finished lamely. He reached his hand out again and I moved closer, hesitating before offering my hand. He snatched my hand and quickly sandwiched it between both of his. I'm so glad you're here. I didn't think I would ever see you again. Tears spilled from his eyes, rolling down his face while he looked at our hands. I just stood there, silently, shock stealing my breath and holding my words hostage. How are you? How's your life? How's your daughter? How's your mom? He looked up at me, tentative hope drying his tears. I'm okay, life is okay, Madison is perfect, Mom is good. It felt weird to talk about Mom and not tell him she was downstairs. I didn't think he would ask about her. He never talked about her. I smiled, focusing on the thought of my daughter. Madison is so smart and funny and sweet. She's perfect. Do you want to see a picture? I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. Please, I would love to see a picture. He smiled back at me. I talked to my father about the last 6 years of my life while he listened attentively and asked questions, laughed and made jokes. A nurse walked in after about an hour to take his vitals. This is my daughter Melissa. She's so smart. She has a great job and a beautiful daughter and I'm so proud of her. My father excitedly introduced me to the nurse and then began telling her everything I didn't think he knew about me while I stood there, dumbfounded. Never had he called me smart. Never had he shown up to swim meets, band concerts, awards banquets or graduation ceremonies to acknowledge my hard work and dedication. Never had I been beautiful, the recipient of his praise or source of his pride. I was a dumb bitch like my mother. The nurse filled out his chart and smiled at him. You're a lucky man to have such an amazing daughter. I am. He looked over at me, his smile slipped and sadness crept into eyes, just for a moment, before he looked back at the nurse. Are you ready for your tests? They will be here to take you down in about 15 minutes. The nurse asked, flipping his chart closed. My father's eyes flew back to me. Can you stay until I come back? Please, will you be here when I'm done? Yeah, Dad, I can be here. I'll go see Bree and come back if you're going to be a while. Really? You don't mind? It's only a couple of hours. I can tell them to wait until tomorrow. Please don't leave. His words came faster and faster and his eyes were wide as he looked at me expectantly. It's fine, Dad. I'll go see Bree and get something to eat. It's no problem. Can I bring you anything when I come back? No, baby, you're the only thing I need. I'm so glad you came. How long are you here? My flight home is at 10. I have to work tomorrow. Okay, I'll only be a couple of hours. Don't forget to come back. I won't, Dad. I'll go see Bree and get some food. I gave him a hug and promised, again, that I would come back and left to find my mom in the cafeteria. A few hours later I walked back in his room and found his third wife there. I smiled politely but moved away from her attempt at a hug. Hey Dad, how were the tests? Okay, how's Bree? Good. We surprised her too. I grinned and laughed, remembering my sister's face when my mom and I walked in the door. She had called but didn't think I would come. Who came with you? He paused and then his eyes widened. Is your mom here? Did your mom come with you? His face was a curious blend of hope and fear. I didn't know how to answer him. I didn't want to lie but I also didn't want to say the wrong thing and risk his anger. Do you think she would come up and see me? That weird look was still plastered on his face and he was oblivious to the agitation growing in his wife, behind him. I can ask her. I pulled my phone out and sent her a text, running down the situation. After 5 minutes of awkward silence my mom walked in the room. She walked in the room and my dad burst into tears. Pregnant tears, shuddering sobs, frantic breaths and slimy mucus replacing the fear/hope on his face. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I love you so much. I've always loved you. I'm so sorry. He reached out his hands and my mom walked toward him. Abruptly, he dropped his hands and started frantically mashing the call button for the nurse. Hey David, it's okay. Everything is okay. My mom turned to his third wife. I don't want to upset you. I only came because he asked for me. I've been with my partner for 17 years. Please don't be upset about this. Fuck you. His wife grabbed her purse and stomped out of the room. It doesn't matter, Deb. She'll be fine. She only came for money. The defeated look from earlier ghosted across his face and he looked down at his lap. The nurse walked in and my dad locked eyes with her. This is Deb. She's the smartest person I've ever met and the only woman I've ever loved. I want to give her medical power of attorney. Get the papers. Hurry, please. Get the papers. Realizing that he hadn't asked, he turned back to my mom. Please. I know I don't deserve it. I know I've been horrible to you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Deb. Please. I can't. She won't. I don't. Please. I'm afraid and I don't have anyone else I trust. We stayed and talked to him for a while. Then I borrowed my mom's iPad and went to the cafeteria to let them talk alone. We said goodbye that night and got on a plane home. My mom went back out, once a week, to check on him. That was the last time I saw my father, dead or alive. I didn't go out for the funeral. I didn't really see the point. One of the monsters of my childhood was slain that day in the hospital. I could no longer summon hate, anger or fear for my father. I only had pity left. Pity for the man so afraid to face his demons that he lived a miserable life and died a lonely death. The fear my father inspires in me is much different now. I'm terrified of ending up like him. I will not regret my life because I was too afraid to live it.